be parents. That's the most important thing. And we have a lot of families with same-sex marriage. No marriage, couples, sorry. No marriage, couples. That's one example. The other example is Israel is a world leader in fertility treatments. And I'll give you the numbers. The rate of IVF in Israel is the highest in the world in comparison of the size of the population. They say that I took the data from what was published in our papers, and 4.3% of all babies in Israel are born from IVF treatments. That's the highest percentage in the world. In the other Western world, it's 1.5% to 2% of the babies. And another thing you need to know that Israel is the only country in the world that finance fully IVF treatments for spouses until they have 2 children. You don't get to pay almost anything. Okay? It's only all funded by the state. So that's only 2 examples that emphasize the centrality of being a parent in Israel. Still, another contradiction. Being a parent is important. Having a family is important. But every third couple gets a divorce. So, what's going on? And if that's not enough, we have very high rate of litigation, because we have other aspects in our culture that makes it this way. For example, as I said before, the race between the authorities, okay? The importance of parenthood, but more, we have a struggle. I understood that many places have it now, between the father's organization to the mom's organizations. Who's more important? Is being a dad more important or being a mom more important? And this is all built upon the religious differences, and it builds up, and as I can talk about it for hours, so well. And another factor is the growing number of lawyers in Israel. We have another world record. Okay. Israel maintains almost a decade of global record of numbers of lawyers per capita. Okay? It's one attorney for 128 residents in Israel. Compared to Britain, they have one lawyer for 400 residents. In Germany, they have a ratio of 1 of 600. And in Japan, they have 1 to 6,000. So that's the numbers. We have the world record, and where I work, in Tel Aviv, that's the worst. Okay? We have one lawyer for 20 residents. Okay? So we have so many lawyers, like the Jewish mom tells her kids when they are small, go be a doctor or a lawyer. A doctor or a lawyer. So I have so many lawyers. So what happens when you have so many lawyers? Competition escalates. ADR, not so much. So what actually happened until I changed it? That in most cases, people will seek ADR only after the lawsuits were submitted. So the chances of going through collaborative divorce are not so good, and I didn't like them. So these are the legal structures and cultural structures that were in my mind and were troubling. And as the name of my lecture, has to be connected to collaborative divorce, right? So collaborative divorce inspired me to understand the Israeli legal system in a very different way. And that came to the place when I drafted this law. So I want you to think for a minute, how did you feel at your first training? My trainer is here, so I have to say.
So we won't ask you.
I will tell you. I didn't know he's going to be here, so. It was 2009, the first collaborative divorce practice training in Israel. And, you know, I listened to Yuval and Pauline Tesler, and I found myself saying to myself, Eureka, this is it. This must be done. This is the way we need to do things. People need to do it. People need to know about it. But they didn't. They still don't so much. A couple of years after that, we found ourselves in a group, in our practice group, a few collaborative professionals sitting down and saying, what can we do? How can we encourage people in Israel to choose the path of collaborative divorce? It wasn't so known then, and it's not so known now. We've gone the distance, but still have a lot of work to do. And you probably understood by now that the commitment, which is the basic of collaborative divorce practice, not to go to court, this commitment is very hard to establish under the Israeli legal system and default. So, how can I advise against it when I know that it's malpractice to advise people not to go to court in very early stage of the family conflict? So, as you all know, while most of my colleagues were thinking how wonderful the collaborative divorce practice is to our clients, I was thinking about my professional identity. How can it be changed? What collaborative divorce practice can do to me and to us as lawyers and as professionals? I was interested all about the professional aspect. I thought, how this can make me a better lawyer. How can I give better service to my clients? And how this can change my profession. And I was thinking about the big difference between what we studied in law school and what happened in reality. In law schools, 20 and more years ago, when I started, nobody taught negotiation. Nobody taught mediation. We were taught substantive law, procedural law, law of evidence, and nobody talked about negotiation. Only when you started to practice, you started to understand it's all about negotiations. You know, the vanishing trial and so on, it's all about negotiations. But I had no tools. I never sat down and learned how to negotiate. This was completely a riddle for me. So here I have a method that teaches me how to negotiate. Not in general, in family conflicts. So, hey, I can learn how to be a better professional because I need to negotiate. So, I came about thinking about it more and more and disapproving what litigation did to my clients and understanding the painful situations and outcomes when I saw clients die, when I saw clients get sick, get cancer, lose their money, lose their soul. And I didn't like that. Didn't like that at all. These thoughts and questions were in my mind when I got back to school. I went back to grad school at 2011 and thought about how can I simulate collaborative divorce in Israel? And I was researching, and that was my MA thesis all about, which I didn't submit later on.
You will.
That's why, that happened because I became a social activist. I didn't plan that, and the path led that way. One thing led to another. It happened when in 2013 I organized a conference in the Israeli Bar Association in Tel Aviv. It was focused on the problem-solving lawyer. And in the audience, I saw a member of the Knesset, which we call MK, this is very common, Michael. I didn't know her, and I was very surprised she was there. The conference was a big success, and I was very pleased, very surprised. I was even more surprised when a couple of months later, MK Michael called me. They said, okay, I like your idea. Why don't you say, let's go draft a bill together? I said, huh? Where did that come from? I'm busy. I don't know if I can make it. I don't have time. All these things are going on in my life. You know what? Give me a couple of weeks. I'll think it out and see how I can organize myself to do that. And I did. And we drafted that bill together. And it took me another 4 years to understand that I'm not going to stay in the academy and become a doctor. And I didn't submit my thesis, but I became very involved in Israeli legislation, family law. And in 2017, the Ministry of Justice of Israel gave me a job as a public representative in the governmental committee. It's not a job, you come once a month, you go, you sit around, but I spend most of the time between the meetings yelling at everyone, what are you doing? It's supposed to be this way and not that way, and what are you doing to my law? So today you can say that I've got the ministerial ears. They listen to what I have to say. They ask me what's my opinion on things that are going to change in Israeli family law. That's a bit shocking for me. So, in spite of everything, I do not regret going back to school. Okay? I studied a lot. And I understood a lot. I understood the power of default rules and many other interesting things. So, I must say I didn't invent the technique of changing default rule. Okay? It's not my invention. Many countries do that now. It comes from the field of behavioral economics. And it was used to change people's attitude toward organ donation. And they came to the understanding that if you change the default, you can increase the amount of organ donations by 70%, right? Something like that. The numbers are enormous. So I took this technique and I used it to promote mental welfare. That's the shift I did. In reducing litigation and family conflicts. And in doing so, I also used my knowledge as an experienced practitioner, as a litigator. And for example, I insisted that what we will discuss later, a motion to settle, there will be no arguments, only facts. I didn't want to give the lawyers, my friends, any chance to write more than identifying details. You know, the one you can copy from your ID card, that you can write down. No arguments, no story. I knew if I will keep a line open, that will be devastating. So that I insisted on. And another thing I understood, also inspired by the collaborative, is the timing. When do I need to change the default? And I mean timing in respect of the family conflict. Okay? Which is the best time? When is the best time to change the default during this conflict? So all this, the collaborative and default and understanding Israeli culture, I took everything in and understood that I need to restruct the process. And that's what I did. I need to catch the people before they get off the cliff, you know? Before it escalates. If only I can stop people from filing those lawsuits, right? I don't want them there, just a minute before. So the specific stage of the conflict in which the family members are is critical to the default change. And another thing I wanted to change is the way people handle their conflicts. To make them think of the how. Okay, the how question. How am I going to handle my conflict? And stop them before they run to court. I said that many times, right? So I wanted to give people the ability and the time to stop and think. Okay? Stop and think before shattering their inner self with the insulting lawsuits. And before the emotional roller coaster of filing a lawsuit, filing a defense, going back and forth, more motions, and I wanted to stop that. But the legal default was not enabling me to do that. So what happened? Shalom.
Hi.
Good morning. So this is the legislation process. You can see here, in 2005, there was a committee in the Israeli Justice Department that recommended to do mandatory mediation. They submitted their recommendation to the Ministry of Justice, and the Ministry of Justice in that time put it in a drawer and didn't do anything with it. Okay? Everybody knew about it, everybody talked about it. From time to time there was a bill drafted, how to make it all happen, but nothing happened. At 2013, I was addressed by Michael, and we drafted the bill, a private bill, and this pushed the Ministry of Justice to submit its own bill. So we had a private bill, and we had a state bill, and more MKs, members of the Knesset, joined the celebration and submitted their own drafts, and at the end we had 4 different drafts, and they were combined together, and eventually we had our law. So, inspiration. Collaborative process inspired me to understand the importance of structure. Structure and emotions. That I need to give emotions structures. And I read so many materials and so many studies in so many different fields of knowledge. System theory, social change, behavioral economics, and so on, and just let it all circle in my head, see how I can integrate everything. But I must say, I didn't do this all alone, okay? I was part of a very big group of people, and we all took the recommendation of the Shenhaf committee and worked on it. Okay, so there was building up of experience of many people, and I added the final touch. So, here we come. What I'm talking about. The name of the law. I translated it. The name is in Hebrew is very complicated. The name of the law, even in Hebrew, okay? Nobody calls it at its name. They have a nickname, which I won't say. Tip is laughing, she knows why.
Oh, say it.
Okay, they call it the mediation law.
Yeah, which is
Which is,
yeah.
they call
Not
it mandatory mediation law in the
Yeah.
media.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Right, clearly.
It's not. So that's very inflammatory for me.
In the beginning, Michal, you used to fix לתקן every
Correct
person,
everybody.
to correct everybody.
But
in the
I
papers,
just-
in the television. Then she.
I said, okay, enough.
Okay,
That's the
enough.
way people know it. Oh, what did you do? I wrote the mandatory mediation law. Oh, right. But it's not.
It's not.
It's not mandatory mediation.
mediation.
So, what it is? Okay, it's mandatory timeout.
Mhm.
That's what you're going to find out, okay? I call it mandatory timeout. Can anyone help me in reading the section 1 of the law? Can you see that? All right. The aim of this law is to help spouses and parents and their children to resolve family conflict among themselves conscientiously and peacefully, and to reduce the need for conducting legal proceedings in consideration of all aspects of the conflict and the best interests of each and every child. I wrote it in Hebrew and translated in English, and it's hard for me to read, so sorry. Okay, so how does it work? You know, what we did in this law, took the resources we had and made new procedures in order to reconstruct the existing services. The services we used are called family support units. Okay, in Israel, each family court and each religious court is supposed to have an affiliated family support unit. This was established in 1988 as a therapeutic arm of the judicial system to provide assistance, mediation, psychological counseling, and support to family members litigating in the family civil courts. So it's a great thing, but until this new law was implemented, it was rarely used. The reason it was rarely used is because you had to be referred to the support unit by a court order, which is kind of missing the point. You know, I said before, we want to skip the phase of the law insulting lawsuit. So the chances are that you will do mediation and negotiation in a peaceful and respectful manner after submitting those lawsuits are reducing. So we had to change that. And here we come to the motion to settle. That's the new thing. A motion to settle, you have to submit it before submitting a lawsuit. Anyone wishing to file a motion on any aspect of family conflict first had to submit a petition for dispute resolution, which I translated in a more sensible way to motion to settle. The motion does not include arguments or facts of any kind relating to the family conflict or to the judicial authority of the court. Remember, that's another big issue in Israel. So the form only requires identifying details about the individual concerned in accordance with the spirit of the law, which is intended to preclude any details about the conflict in order to establish optimal conditions for the dispute resolution procedures. What happens after the motion is submitted? I said before, timeout. That's the whole invention. timeout.
Sorry, Michal, on
Yeah.
the last slide you said no arguments or facts. I thought it was just facts, no arguments.
You can only state your name, your ID number, and the exact things of your spouse. You say, my name is Michal פיין, I live in ta-ta-ta-ta. I have a conflict with my husband, okay, who lives in ta-ta-ta. That's it. That's the form.
No incomes, no
No.
blah, blah, blah.
Nothing.
Okay, all right.
Nothing.
Okay, thanks.
No facts, no arguments, nothing. Only what you
No
can
substantive.
copy from your ID card. Why is
Okay.
that? Because me, as a very good lady guy, I know that every fact that I will write down, you can say that, and I will say that.
But your name and your ID number, you can't argue.
You can
Yeah.
argue. Well,
Okay,
some people
good.
will argue that, but that's for high conflict people, not this lecture today, okay? On this lecture, we're talking about most people just copy your ID card into the motion to settle, and that's it. Nothing else. So, after this is submitted to the court, we have a mandatory timeout. We have a period from 60 to 75 days in which the parties cannot submit any lawsuit or any other motion. Okay? The court will not receive anything from that in that period of time.
No exceptions?
There are exceptions.
Okay.
I will tell about them very shortly. Only if you need of urgent assistance from the judicial court, that you don't have money to go to buy bread and butter, so you go to the court. I have to have alimony right now because I have no money in my pockets.
Yeah.
Okay, this is like an emergency situation that you can submit. But also I'm not going to talk about the procedures that the regulation that we added in order to allow these cases, but it's very detailed, the regulations, and in them we tried to make sure that only really urgent matters can be submitted to the court in those periods of time.
Right.
We just wanted people to be able to be free from judicial proceedings in this period of time. And that is why we call this period stay of proceedings, okay? You're not allowed to submit anything. And during this period of time, ranging from 60 to 75 days, the parties are invited to a meeting in the family support unit with a social worker. Okay? Okay, that explains the aspirations of the law. Okay, the law requires the litigants to resort to a process of structured negotiation before submitting offensive lawsuits, which after their submission, the ability to continue to communicate and cooperate as parents is irreversibly damaged. So you can see that's where we're going to until now in our journey. That's the point. So as I mentioned before, it's not mandatory mediation. Okay, we don't force the people to mediate. We give them a tough period, we call it a tough period of time, okay, because the exceptions are very strict, in which they are prevented of filing lawsuits against each other. Time.
Go faster, go
I
faster.
just need to go faster.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, the IFC meetings, information, formalization, and coordination. That's what happens in those meetings. After the motion is settled is submitted, the parties are invited to a meeting with the social worker. In those meetings, the parties are given information about the implication of legal proceeding on them and their children, other ways of resolving conflicts outside the court, ADR, and ways of coping with difficulties from the family crisis. What actually happened in those meetings? We give people hope. Okay? We give people a chance to sit down together with a facilitator. Sounds familiar, right? Facilitator? I don't know. And to have a dialogue. Okay? And sometimes even people could not even imagine the situation they will be able to sit down and talk, to have a meaningful conversation of any kind. At those points of extreme anxieties in the beginning of the family conflict. And here we are, we're giving them hope. We're giving them an exploratory meeting. They can sense and feel if they have any chance of negotiating. And you know what? Half of the time it works. They continue to negotiate. Half of the time they don't.
What's the reconciliation rate?
I don't know and I don't care. My point is not to prevent people from getting a divorce.
Right.
My point is to enable them to have a respectable process. Respectful process. Okay? That's it. And when they sit down with a facilitator for the first time in those support unit, they can sometimes move from the state of hell, as we call, to a state of difficult but solvable situation. So it's a big shift. You wanted to ask that?
I did. Can you speak a little bit to what precautions or thoughts or I guess rules go along with this to make sure that neither party is dispensing assets or doing anything like that? Is that part of it at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know in the
we have regulations about it.
yeah, because
Okay.
in the U.S. or particularly we practice in King County here, that before you can do that, you have to, if you're even near the court system, you get stays so that no one can. Or
I
restraints,
wanted
so
to
no
do
one
that,
can do that.
but they didn't. The Ministry of Justice didn't agree.
Okay.
So our compromise was to come up with a regulation that enables one of the parties to submit a motion to hold all the assets
Right.
if they think there's a chance of
Okay.
someone damaging.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay. Well.
I wanted to talk about the fact that it's only a preliminary provision. The law is only applicable